Welcome to another episode of the Get Out Swim podcast. I'm your host, Seamus T. Quinn, and today I'm joined by head coach of VMI Swim and Dive. This is Scott Thacker. Scott, thanks for
What's
hopping
up,
on.
Seamus?
What's
Yeah,
up,
man.
man?
Pumped to be here, brother.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I'm
chilling,
pumped,
man.
pumped to have you. So Scott and I, we coached at NC State Swim Camp a couple weeks back. Actually, it was longer than that, probably a month ago now.
Yeah, it's about a month ago.
Summer flew by, yeah. But um, so yeah, we coached at NC State, connected there, and kind of coached in the same elite group, which was good fun. Me, you, and Anna, and yeah, so invited Scott on, and excited to talk to you. So tell us about kind of where you're at VMI. What are some of the demands of like being a student athlete at VMI, and what kind of makes it different than maybe other places that you've been at and other sort of institutions in the U.S.
Yeah, so VMI is the country's oldest senior public military college. Essentially, what that means is this the setup here is extremely similar to West Point, but it's in a state school setting. So it's a Virginia state school. There's in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition. Um, Cadets can choose, a contracting or commissioning route into the military, or they can choose to not do that. So about 60% of our core of cadets are going to go into the military either through commissioning, through an ROTC scholarship, or through contracting. Mm. And then the other 40% are going to, go into the private sector. Everything's different here. I think that's the easiest way to say it. It's definitely hard to enumerate everything, and it's still hard to enumerate everything they do, even, just finishing 3 seasons here. But, you know, they're in a uniform every day, they're doing formations every day, they're doing some type of, ROTC lab every week, so they're doing, some type of actual military training that's branch specific, 1 or 2 times a week. They're doing, core PT. They're doing all of the different briefings and required activities that they need to do. I think that on the surface level, it's going to appear a lot busier and a lot more dynamic than, even my experience as a student athlete in college. But, there's definitely a really big time demand on them. There are days like, you know, sleeping in for them is 7 a.m., if they get to do that,
Yeah, yeah.
and then, so a kind of an average day is probably like the best way to explain it. So this is like if we, have a double, they're gonna wake up, we're swimming at 6, we're swimming from 6 to 7:15 in the morning, and then they've got to hurry up, put on their uniform, scoot up to breakfast, and then get ready for their morning briefings at 8. And that could be academic briefings, ROTC briefings, just general information, things that are going on in the core, things that, you know, the core needs to focus on. And then they're going to class. The day is a pretty normal class day with the exception of, you know, being told what to wear, right? So
Hmm.
they're in uniform all day, and then they have a little bit of time for lunch, about 30 or 45 minutes blocked out for lunch, and then in the afternoon they're going to finish up their classes, and this is the afternoons where all of our labs happen, all of our ROTC labs happen. And ROTC is always a really unique bag of tricks. Like, you can be sitting in a classroom learning about field navigation, or you can be out in the woods on North Post with a 50-pound ruck on your back actually doing land navigation. So it's pretty dynamic. Our cadets seem to really like it. And then at 4 o'clock, we're back in the pool. We're swimming from 4 till about 6, and then at 6 we're going to the weight room and finishing up our training day in the weight room. And then they have to do a team formation at 7:30 to take accountability, and then they go up to breakfast. They go up to sorry, not breakfast, dinner, and it's probably 7:45. Get done with dinner at 8:15, and then they have to do the same thing that every other college student athlete does, and that's get homework done, get ready for the next day, and and do it all over again, So it's definitely a busier, much more structured life, I think, than a normal a non-military school.
Right.
But it works well for our cadets.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would imagine the level of just discipline for being a student at VMI is pretty high. And
Yeah, definitely. And you
what
have to go ahead.
no, I was going to say, like, what do you, I guess, notice from like the people on your team, just with, let's say, they have a packed week, right? Like you just kind of painted a
Mhm.
picture of what their day looks like, and then you have to account for also, getting them into shape as far as the swim side of things, and for the divers, the dive side of things. So I would imagine they're conditioned throughout the week with all the movement and activity that they're doing, but then how do you sort of
Mhm.
like adapt as a coach to the demands of like being, in sort of their other aspects of being a student there?
Yeah, yeah. So that's taken some time to figure out because it's pretty individualized. You know how our how my top miler is going to handle the general volume of VMI is going to be a little different than our top sprinter,
Yeah.
right? And everyone in between is going to be different. So we're in season a majority of the year, from the very first day of classes until, you know, our countable days usually get us into March. Um, we are we're excused from a lot of the mandatory physical training that the core does at a surface level. We're not excused from ROTC things. We're not excused if somebody does something like Ranger Challenge or some other type of, military club. But for a large part, the bulk of their physical training is going to be with swimming and or diving, right? I think that the volume piece that we try to be aware of is at every semester they're taking a PE class, right? Every semester, for those that are contracting or commissioning, they're doing ROTC, and sometimes they're doing ROTC twice a week. They might have a lab on Tuesday or Thursday, and then they might have ROTC time, ROTC duty on Saturdays. So it's just getting individual schedules and just having conversations of like, hey, if you have a really heavy ROTC day, if you get really beat up, I need to know. I don't want you to come in Thursday afternoon where we're swimming and we're lifting, where you've been beat up, you've been out, running or rucking, and I don't want to hurt you.
Right.
Right. So it's just a much more, I think we take just an organic approach to it. Like, I want to know how you're feeling and I need you to bring it to me because you know your schedule and you know how you feel. I trust my athletes
Mhm.
to one, tell me the truth and to be honest with me about what they need, and they are. And
Yeah.
so I think the game for me isn't so much okay how much work we can do. It's dosing the right amount of work.
Mhm.
So the kind of a simple example is if they have an ROTC lab, really heavy physical. Maybe they did their semester physical fitness test that day. Well, they're going to come in that afternoon, and I'm just going to shake them out. They've done a physical fitness test for 2 hours, right? They don't need to really do anything. They're fit, right?
Mhm.
They've done fitness. Their systems are activated. I'm just going to shake them out, right? Like a nice low, long recovery. Um, just kind of let them shut their brain off, let them start getting recovered. Probably going to scoot them over to the training room or put them in the cold tub just to continue that recovery, and then they'll skip lift, and then we'll get them back into the full swing of things the next day. So but those things are very seldom. That's not something that we really have to worry about every week.
Yeah.
Um, it's for the most part, it's pretty straightforward, which is nice. I think that we're definitely given a lot of time. We're definitely given a lot of space and um, a lot of space and time with them to to train, right? To
Mhm.
be to be a to be a cadet athlete. I think that there's these desires at VMI one, be competitive Division 1, and that requires a lot of time and energy and effort, but also to have athletics integrated within the Corps of Cadets, right? And to not feel separate. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, and that's just the way that it is. It's like that anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, you have the the bottom line is that this is a highly demanding place, and with a highly demanding set of standards, and but it's designed in a way to be able to, like, be really involved in the core, be really involved in ROTC and the military side of things, and be really involved in athletics. And that's inside of Division 1 athletics, and that's outside of Division 1 athletics in terms of our club sports. So that's a little bit of what it's like, and what we try to do with that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's nice being able to kind of parse out each sort of each piece to the institution, and I'm curious, like, what are some career paths that some of your like athletes have taken off post swimming just as a result of like being at VMI and sort of having that opportunity?
Yeah, for sure. So kind of work backwards. Obviously, we have a pretty large handful of men and women that have either commissioned or contracted into the services. We've got a recent graduate flying in the Army. We've got a recent graduate that is in medical school, and he will be a doctor in the Army. We have a guy that just passed Army Ranger training, so he will be on that side of the fight for us. And we've got, you know, captains in the Navy, all over, right?
Yeah.
Captains in the Air Force, pilots in the Air Force, and then we have a guy that graduated last year, and he just got a new assignment with the construct. He's a construction engineer. Just got a new assignment for a massive data center
Mm.
out like in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. But he's making bukus of cash and really loving what he does. And I think I've really enjoyed and been just really really proud of what where VMI puts people after their 4 years. This is we're kind of unassuming in like what we have, like from a resource perspective and from an alumni perspective. I think we've got about 18,000 living alumni, but we have an almost a $900 million endowment for
Wow.
a school that's 1,700 kids, right? That's big. It's per student, so it's the largest endowment in the country.
Wow.
And much more profoundly, like, our alumni network really takes care of you know our our brothers and sisters here at VMI. And I haven't had any athlete that I've coached like not get a job
Mm.
that goes into the private sector. And 9 times out of 10, it's been either through or with somebody that is a VMI grad. So, and that's in the back end, when we're recruiting, that's something that, like, I definitely appreciate and know when I'm having these conversations. It's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's tough. There's all these things that you have to do, but let's talk about our end result, like these tangible end results. And so I'm very proud to be able to recruit to VMI and find people to come swim fast here.
Totally. Yeah. So on that point of like recruiting and keeping kind of that in mind, like what's your process just like for recruiting sort of the quote unquote right athlete to VMI? Like what characteristics are you looking for throughout the recruiting process and just,
Yeah.
finding the right people because I feel like that's a huge part of being a college coach is just trying to find the right fit for your program and don't get it right all the time, but you try to, right? So,
Yeah. So we start, like anybody, we start looking at names and times, right? And it takes time to figure out kind of what we want. And I think it takes recruits the kind of the same amount of time to figure out if they want VMI. We're trying to figure out if we think they can do VMI, do well here. And obviously our recruits and our prospects are trying to figure out if they can do VMI. Most of the time, I'd say probably 90% of our recruits, so 90% of prospects that respond, they're responding with some type of interest in the military or
Mm.
some type of interest in an academy or a school like VMI. And so we're not trying to put a square peg into a round hole. Like I'm not cold calling people like, "Hey, come swim here. We got a scholarship. It's going to be awesome. Hey, come dive here. It's going to be sweet." This isn't a normal place. And you can't you can't hide that, right? Like, no, you'll be doing Division 1 athletics on top of the other 18,000 things that you got to do during your week,
Right.
right? And um, it is an equal part of the whole pie, right? We're not getting a whole lot of extra special love and attention for being a Division 1 athlete. Yeah, we get some time to train, but you're not exempt from any of the rules, right? You're not exempt from the standards. You're not exempt from the academic demands of a top 5 public liberal arts school, right? Like all of those things exist simultaneously. So it's it's a tall task, I think, to find people that are going to do this place really well. And um, so we reach out, start the process with people, start talking. We want to get people here as soon as possible on some type of trip, like whether it's an unofficial or whether it's an open house experience. We want to get them here and get them familiarized with VMI, and especially during the rat line, which is essentially it's the whole first semester of freshman year, and it moves a little bit into the second semester of freshman year. It's essentially a introductory process, the introductory phase to becoming a cadet. So when a freshman gets to VMI, we call a rat, right? So
Mhm.
they're called a rat, like a ugly rat.
Subway.
It's not endearing. It's just that's what they're called. And then so from matriculation day, so they have matriculation week or hell week as we like to call it. That's a 9 or 10 day boot camp, and then that introductory phase extends through the whole first semester. There's just some realities to that. There's noise to that. There's a cadence to that. There's expectations within that I think it's really important for recruits to come and see that. It's really important for them to come and see how they are going to be treated during that time, how they are expected to live and grow and develop during that time, and what to expect from the upperclassmen that are going to be leading and teaching them during that time. And so we do that, and then pretty much like VMI is a vortex, right? Like someone's going to come to post, and they're going to be like, I'm going to go to VMI. I love VMI. Or they're like, this is not for me,
Right.
which is great. There's no middle ground
Mm.
with at least how I feel about it. In my experiences with recruiting here, people either leave that trip or like their first experience on post, like either, hey, yeah, I can do this and I'm excited about this, or they're like,
No.
it's not for me, coach, which is great, right? And so, much like anybody, you're trying to get people on your campus, you're trying to get to know them, you're trying to purse out, hey, what are their academics like? What's their character integrity like? What's their what's their family support like, right? What do they want to do? Are they super gung ho and interested in the military? Do they want a more civilian path? And obviously, we can support all of those. We're a very heavy commission team. We have a bulk majority of our team is going into the military, but VMI can, obviously produce and raise up great people to both of those sectors. But um, and really, our process, I think, largely is very prospect and recruit led, right?
Mm.
I'm not calling them up and be like, hey, here's your offer. You got a week. Um, it's not my style. It's not useful here, right? If someone's coming to VMI, that's going to be one of the biggest decisions they ever make in their life, and one of the hardest decisions they ever make in their life. So I want them to as much as they can, like, know that they know that they know. because once they get here, I I expect you to finish what you started.
Yeah.
Like you come on this team, you come on it for good and bad, and you come to VMI, you come on it for good and bad, right? And you stay committed to me committing to you, you committing to the team, and like you committing to this place.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to just touch on some of the like highlights that you've had since being there and the team has had, and kind of
Yeah.
segue into a question. But yeah, just some kind of some highlights. Like you guys this year alone, you had 43 team records broken. You had 46 finals appearances, the most in 5 years for VMI. And then I was looking, and you guys for the VMI men, you led them to a 5-3 record, which was their first winning season since 2021, and the most wins since 2020. And then for your women, you guys had 2 wins, so that was your first Division One victory since 2014. You just signed a 4-year contract extension with VMI, so you're there to stay. You want to keep building, something there,
Hmm.
and building this team. So, you know, how do you sort of see the longevity of being a head coach at VMI, and sort of getting that buy-in from the team with what you've kind of built so far in this sort of like tenure?
Yeah. So I love it here. I've found my place.
Yeah.
This is where when I think about what I want to do in coaching, and this might be different. I really early on in my coaching career, I recognized that I didn't want to be in the rat race of you know being a volunteer assistant and then maybe being an assistant coach and then an associate head coach at like the P4 Power 5 level.
Mm,
I didn't want that life, right? That's not it just wasn't what I wanted. And so I had some very strict kind of non-negotiables and you know jobs that I was interested in, jobs that I would even consider looking at. And but what I really wanted more than anything was I wanted a place where I could just like sink my roots into and invest and like give my best to
mm,
and give like the best of my life to, right? um Making an impact and building a legacy and building things that last are very important to me. And whether that's structure, systems, teams, culture, people, like that's what I want to do. And I think to do that, if we look around, that happens the best when people are able to really invest in a place, right? And not places. And so I mean, if I could sign a lifetime contract, I would, you know.
mm,
I love it here. And it's been a build. It's definitely been a big shift in a lot of things. When I got here, the year before that, the team didn't have a head coach, and so the swim team essentially coached themselves.
mm,
And there was like fallout from that and some setbacks from that. And but what also came out of that was this remarkable group of people that were bought in and they were ready to help the team go. I don't want to say new direction, just a different direction,
different. Yeah.
right? um, and because they had a lot of really great attributes and a lot of really great characteristics and things that they were incredibly excellent at. Like I inherited a team that like was sold out for VMI and we're like pretty strong academically
Right.
and like had a really strong orientation and focus on VMI, which is 99% of the battle, right? Swimming and diving in college is not hard. It's fun. It's an incredible experience. VMI is hard, right? And so it's
Interesting. Mm,
balancing and really like what we're trying to create the most of is just buy-in with VMI and like an appreciation and a pride and doing this thing at VMI. So um and I think the general goals are, we want to use swimming and diving to raise up and develop incredible young men and women. We
mm,
want our program in unison and in collaboration with VMI to be something that produces people that are going to create big impact in the spaces and places they go, whether that's a boardroom, whether that's a stay-at-home mom, whether that's a general in the army, whether that's a pilot, whether that's a war fighter, and everything in between. We want our program to be a place that like raises up incredible young men and women. And then, um, yeah, we want to have individual conference champions. We want to win conference championships. We want to keep, uh, increasing and, placing higher at the national invite, the CSCAA national invite. And we want to start qualifying people for NCAAs. And
Yeah.
so when I kind of think about, you know, hey, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a coach here at VMI, and he was like, are those things possible, right? And I was like, and I look at people like Grant at Army, right? Like,
Hmm.
yes, it's possible. So why, if it can happen there, right? It's a similar structure, similar demands. If it can happen there, if it's happened at Navy, if it's happened at Air Force, why not VMI,
Right.
right? So we're always tinkering and trying to find, the right people to do that, right? Because it's going to take a special person to help us do those things, and that's what we're looking at. But that's the overall trajectory, of
Yeah.
what we're about, right? We're a team that appreciates VMI. We're a team that's dedicated to our military efforts, and we're a team that wants to be excellent, athletically and academically.
Yeah.
And I think more so, like, I early on in my career, this probably wasn't on the forefront of my brain, but like the thing that I want now more than anything, and the thing that it's like not the times, it's like not hoisting a trophy, it's not getting a contract extension. The thing that I want to make sure that I do and do really well is like create an environment and support an environment that in collaboration with VMI like creates incredible people.
Mm.
Um, we need we need high agency people in the world. We need people that are going to go and make big impact in the things that they do, right? And I said this before, and forgive me for repeating, but whether it's like a stay-at-home mom or dad, we need high impact parents, right?
Yeah.
That are going to raise up great great kids and great young people. We need great CEOs that have high character and integrity, right? We need great generals that are going to make smart decisions on the battlefield and smart decisions for their subordinates and everyone in between,
Mm.
and I think that for me, VMI is the perfect mix to be able to do that, because like that's my heart, that's what I want, right? And that's what I love the most about coaching. Don't get me wrong, I love going fast. It's cool to to watch that 400 free relay end and know that when your team touches the wall, like you're going to win a conference title, or that someone's going to win that event, and it's awesome, right? And it's even awesome getting a bronze or getting a silver too, right? Or just going to best time, and like we love breaking records, but I think those are the things right now that's what really like keeps me excited, and that's what drives me, and that's what I love the most about what I do. But it's been really good, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the best job in the world,
Yeah.
and it's in a great spot. Like, it's close to family. We live in a beautiful area. We live about 25 minutes from Post, right near a river in the middle of a beautiful valley. Like, it doesn't get better than this. Like, this is the dream. Like, this is
Mm.
the coaching dream, where you've got the three, I think, most important things. You've got a high quality academic institution that has high quality resources that attract high quality people, right? And you've got a high quality athletic department. And so you'd have to drag me away from here kicking and screaming, to be honest with you. I'm trying to die here. So
No, it's good. Yeah, I watched a reel on the VMI swimming and diving Instagram of you just like just having fun at the conference championship. I think it was like, saw you jumping up off, the diving trampoline, and then just the high energy, like jumping up and down, just screaming for the kids while they're swimming, and the young men and women on your team, and just kind of having
yeah.
fun, like being goofy, being authentic. So
Yeah.
like, talk to me about when you get to those meets and just kind of being able to kind of be yourself while also being,
Yeah.
the head coach and sort of how you can
Yeah.
speak to that.
Yeah, like you've met me,
Yeah,
so you know that I'm a colorful character. um, like I am unapologetically and very confidently myself.
yeah,
I had a coaching experience where this was pretty early on in my coaching career, and um, the organization um, was trying to be something they weren't, and that made me feel like I had to be somebody that I wasn't, and that was a very short-lived experience for me. It just wasn't it wasn't right for
yeah,
me, you
yeah.
know. And so since then, I've just really sought places where I felt like I can be myself.
Mm,
Like look at me. I'm not in a uniform. I'm not uniform staff. I have a somewhat of a beard. Um, like I don't have to be super rigid. I get to be myself, right? And there's
right.
times that like I need to lock in and the team needs to lock in. And I wouldn't say that I'm a goofy and unorganized and unprofessional. I would just say that I'm I like to create good community and I want to be a connector of people and I want people to feel good about a place and space that they're coming to spend 20 hours a week.
Mm,
The thing that they do the most probably outside of studying and sleeping is come to the pool, right? Or
right.
go to the weight room. So I want to be myself and encourage them to be themselves, right? And bring their best selves. Because when you're trying to, you know, when you're not living in alignment and when you're not being authentic, you can't bring your best self to the table. Like you might bring pieces of your best self, but you're not bringing your full capacity. And um, I think that it's just and I do know and appreciate that it's hard to find a place like that. And that's one of the reasons how I know I've got something really good. And I work really hard to protect that and like cultivate, the type of results and standards and situations that will promote and support me wanting to be here for a long time, right? There's a reality of that. Like I just won't be here because I want to be here. But I will be here because I continue to produce results as a coach, right? And our
Yeah,
team continues to produce results as a coach. So, um, yeah, I'm me, I'm who I am and trying to get a little better every day and love the process and love the process of becoming and doing and being and living in life.
yeah. No, I love it. I love that message. It definitely struck home with me, like just being authentic, and sort of
Yeah.
just embracing that, no matter just where you are. I love it, and
Hmm.
certainly, yeah, you're a colorful character. You're also a connector for sure. That was one thing I realized when I was at camp with you is just the connecting piece, community piece, and yeah, also very funny. So that's very good.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, but all right, moving on. So give us, yeah, I wanted to go back a little bit. Like, give us the origin story of Scott.
Yeah.
Like, give
Yeah.
what got you into swimming, and like what eventually led you to become a coach. Because
Yeah.
we love these stories.
Yeah. So, um, there's two answers. One's comfortable, one's uncomfortable, but you don't worry, you're gonna get both.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of wrestle with, sharing all of this, but like I said, I'm myself. You got to be authentic, and
Hmm.
there's like some less colorful and like pretty difficult parts of my story, and the things that have made me who I am, and so the comfortable answer is that coaching was just a natural progression of my swimming experience. I got swim lessons at the local club team when I was 7. That guy was like, "Hey, you need to do summer league next year." The next summer, I did summer league. Then the Y coach was like, "Hey, you need to do all year round." So when I was 9, I started swimming all year round. Was swim for the Y. Elementary school, middle school, high school. Was a Y national champion in 2 medley relay, 4 medley relay, 200 breaststroke. Eventually, got a senior national cut during high school and was able to go and swim in college at Florida State on and it was super lucky to for swimming to help finance a really good portion of my my studies and my college, and had the opportunity to swim at a great place with a great coach, and I was an ACC champion in the 100 breaststroke. My senior year was qualified for NCAA's. My junior year, and went to the U.S. Open, nationals, things like that during college, and had the opportunity to train post grad back at home from 2010 to 2012, where I finished my swimming career at the 2012 Olympic trials. Um, and then coaching was a natural progression for me. So that's the really easy answer. It's true.
Cool.
It's very true. It
Yeah.
just it's void of maybe it's void of the bottom that
Mhm.
is very important in my origin story.
Totally.
And so I like had had a life where I was given everything I could ever need. Right. I had all the resources. I had all the opportunity. I get through swimming competitively in college, so I compete all of my 8 semesters. I had a semester left to graduate, and I made a series of really poor decisions that resulted in me not being able to continue to train with my college team. I was going down a bad path with alcohol and people, and it came to fruition and really blew up. And it was kind of twofold. There was this really practical change that I needed to make, and like how I spent my time and who I spent it with. But it was also, you know, I did these actions that really broke the trust of people that had really supported me in my life
Mhm.
and had really always tried to really lift me up. And that would be like my family, that would be my pastor, that would be a ton of my friends, that was my coach, the guy and the staff that like coached me and loved me for 4 years. Like the path I was going down was just like a big middle finger to them. And like I just felt like this very strong, you know, this very strong reality that I had to begin to choose a different path. Like I didn't get to argue about it. I didn't get to work around. I had to choose a different path. And, because I wasn't living in alignment. I wasn't living in alignment with who raised me, my family, my mom, my dad, my grandparents. I wasn't living in alignment with with what I believed about faith and virtue and integrity. I was like living the exact opposite. Right. And so I had this really pivotal moment that like nothing was fixed overnight. Right. I didn't wake up like a whole new person, but I did wake up a convicted person and a person that wanted to be a lot better. And over the course of the next few years and through some really wonderful opportunities, like, you know, I had, I wasn't able to train anymore with my college club team. There was a local coach in Tallahassee that gave me a shot, gave me an opportunity when when I didn't deserve it. And that turned into an opportunity to go home and train with my club team. And just like to have, you know, my club coach that really developed me in high school say, come back, right? Come back. Let's like get back on the right path. Let's go to trials. Like there's very few moments in my life that are more impactful and more important than
Mm.
that conversation with him and my dad, because it was just kind of like, okay, you've got this path, like it's been restored. And, you know, I think that from there it, I really loved swimming. I couldn't imagine swimming with like my life without swimming, right? And sorry for getting a little emotional. It's still
No,
like
man. Yeah.
that's like just like was a really pivotal time in my life. And I think it really shaped like my heart and how I use coaching now, and
Mm.
why I'm like very allergic to not being myself, right? Because I was given like when I needed it most and when I deserved it the least, like the biggest and most beautiful community and opportunity that I had that like changed my life, right?
Yeah.
And so this combination of like incredible people and mm, and swimming and faith like changed my life,
Yeah.
right? And so And so I wouldn't say that I knew right then and there exactly what I wanted to do, and or I even really knew what I wanted to do, and like through the end of trials, right? The opportunity to coach was presented.
Mm,
Had a buddy who was coaching. He said, "Hey, I'm coaching a team here in Richmond. I need an assistant coach, and would you come interview for it?" Right? I think you would really enjoy coaching, and I was doing swim lessons, and I was helping coach the little kids at my club and things like that, and so I was familiar with the idea, helping the age group and like the we called them like the tadpoles or the pollywogs or something. They were like the 4-year-olds, they
mhm,
were great.
mhm.
And so interviewed, got the job. 2 weeks later, he was like, my wife and I, we're moving to the Cayman Islands. So you're gonna be the head coach. So I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know how to do this, but had some great teachers and some great people that came alongside me that first year and at that team. And then a very long story short, that team was dissolved by the Y it was at, um, which was like super sad and difficult. But I had a blast. Like we swam fast, and that's where I was like, hey, like building things and helping people and going fast is really fun. I really like this. I'm going to stick with this coaching thing. Ended up back in Lynchburg, my hometown, coaching as an assistant at the YMCA there. Was it's where I reconnected with my high school love, my wife Whitney,
Mm,
and we reconnected. 2 weeks later, we're dating. A couple months later, we're engaged. A couple months later, we're married. So from first date to marriage was about 9 months, and we just celebrated 11 years in May. So that
right.
was a wonderful part of that time in our life. And then I became a head coach at another team, another Y team in the state. And then while I was there, I was offered the job to come to Roanoke College and restart the men's and women's swim team there. And I was there for 5 years, coached with my boy Brandon Ress, and a variety of other characters like Andrew Cardenas and Logan Kale, both guys that were alumni from Roanoke and swam for us. And then um, now I'm at VMI
Yeah,
and just finished 3 seasons here.
it's awesome. Yeah, I love it, and I like that you shared both sides of that story too. Like, obviously, there's
Yeah.
the more clear cut. Yeah, these are the reasons why I became a coach, but then there's also the kind of the real rawness to it, and
Yeah, I had to go through some fire, I had to
yeah,
go through some refinement. I was not polished. I was a little rough. I was a little rough around the edges,
right,
and I think that's why it's like one of the things that I talk a lot about, like from all that is just, live in alignment. If it
right.
doesn't feel right, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Right?
Yeah,
And but that was definitely a very forming time in my life and a very important time in my life, and it definitely informs a lot of my just like my core principles about like grace and goodness and authenticity and like what people need when things like when they suck
yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
so
totally.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm curious, like, as you started coaching and went from club to college, like, what were some learning experiences that you went through just that
Mm.
obviously helps inform your coaching now? Because I feel like
Yeah.
when you're a young coach, I mean, I had this chip too. Like, obviously, you're figuring it out, but you have an edge. You come off as being maybe a competitor, an athlete, and you think, "Oh, I can do this. Like,
Mhm.
I can coach. Like, it's not that challenging."
Yeah.
And you get hit with reality sometimes. But yeah, what were some like learning experiences there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot within that first couple years of coaching, especially if you're put into a position of authority, like as a head coach or maybe a group lead or something like that, where like you got to be okay with being tested by people because you're going to be tested. And what I mean by that is like an athlete questioning what you do, or a parent questioning what you do, or a board questioning what you do. Like you have to be okay with that, right? Like just because I swim at a high level didn't mean that I could coach an age grouper or like teach a stroke progression or teach somebody how to dive or run a budget, right? Like you have to be okay with people one questioning you and testing you, but you also have to be okay with understanding that like there is a ton that you need to learn. I've got a guy who swam for us at Roanoke that um was teaching for a while, and he left teaching and he's a club coach now. And so we've been talking through this progression for, like 1 or 2 months. He's like, man, like there's so much to learn. And I'm like, that's what I told you, bro. There's a lot to learn and you're continuously learning that. And so be ready to be tested and be okay with it. It's not a bad thing. And it allows you to stay sharp and to, make sure that you can explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. To understand that you've got a lot to learn and you're not going to learn it all in one time. You're learning psychology, you're learning physiology, you're learning management, you're learning finance, right? There's all these pieces that you have to learn, and it takes longer than a season or longer than the introductory USA swimming coaches course or ASCA 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 to really learn, right? This is a lifelong pursuit,
Yeah.
and a lifelong art of being a coach and a mentor, right? Three, I would say prioritize your impact and your influence over everything. You're going to be, whether you're a club coach or a college coach or a rec coach or summer league coach, during those pockets of time, you're most likely spending more time with that athlete, with that young person than anybody else in the whole entire their in life, right?
Mm,
So um, that doesn't mean that like you're, and I know sometimes that sounds kitschy, but you know, you have a duty to be solid, like
yeah.
to be virtuous, to set a good example because they're watching you, right? And at some point they're going to look to you and need help and they're going to model things after you whether you like it or not. And four, like enjoy it. Don't rush through it. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of molding and shaping that's going to happen through your career. Like you're going to be one person on day one, and I can tell you 11 years in, 12 years in, you're going to be someone different, and you need to be okay with that. And you need to be fully oriented on that. It's like you're becoming something and pursuing something. It's not this automatic, I'm this coach or I've got to be this way. And the last piece is I kind of alluded to it earlier, like find a place where you can be yourself and find a place where you want to invest in.
Mm,
Because that's what's going to keep you happy and that's what's going to keep you engaged in the sport.
yeah. Totally. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I love it. I want to keep picking your brain about various coaching stuff, but I'm gonna wrap up with this last question here.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of get out swims? And if so, do you have a favorite get out swim story, either as a coach or an athlete?
All right. I'll let the story answer the question.
Yeah.
It's our second year at Roanoke College. It's me and Brandon Ress. And so the nature of practices were we would be on campus with a small portion of our team, and then another portion of our team would be at the YMCA, the local YMCA, which was a few minutes away from campus. And so on Tuesday mornings, or Tuesday in general, it was like 500 free and 400 IM day. And so Brandon, who's the man who was a head coach at Roanoke for a few years after I left, and now he's an assistant coach at UNCW. Brandon is a distance IM magician, right?
Mm,
And Brandon comes in, and I'm like, hey, you're going to get full autonomy in your groups, right? So I made that promise to him. I said, you get full autonomy, which means like I might give a suggestion, but I'm not going to I'm not going to dictate things or tell him if he's doing something. I'm not going to tell him not to do it, right? I might
mhm,
ask him about it. I might want him to explain it, but I wanted him to figure out, his language, right? His code, his how he was going to coach and how he was going to train. And so, and we had a pretty good class that year. Big class, a bunch of conference champions came out of that class. NCAA qualifier and All American came out of that class, and so we get through the first couple weeks, and he's like, "Oh yeah, practices they're gritty, they're awesome." And he comes in after that morning practice. He's like, "Yeah, practice was really good. We did a get out swim. We did 100 IM. This guy went this girl went that, and this guy went that." I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. That's pretty quick, and that's awesome." And the next week it was the same thing. And the next week it was the same thing. And I felt like every week it was the same thing. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? Right? Like, why are you doing that? But
Yeah.
I told him, you have autonomy, right? And I
Mhm.
was like, hey, what's your philosophy on this? Like why do you do this,
Yeah.
right? And what's the setting and situation that you do it? Like how much volume are you okay with cutting off, right, of a workout of like a dynamic day, right? 500 free and 400 IM ain't this isn't, it's not cutting off some yardage for, you know, uh, a long aerobic set, right? It's super significant volume. And so he explains it, and so um it drove me crazy. I mean, for weeks, it just like it made my eyes twitch. I'm like, what do you mean? Like a get out swim, right? So in general, no. I wasn't always a fan, but I do understand and appreciate the the value of it,
Mm.
right, at times. And so Brandon taught me how to appreciate it
Yeah.
and value it, and like, you know so I trusted him, right? And then that year, one of those freshmen, um broke the conference record in the 4 a.m. So
There we go.
he was right.
Mhm. Yeah.
Brandon was right.
Yeah.
So
Brandon had the magic.
yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely, that guy's got all the magic, man. He's the man, and he taught me a lot, and he was a big architect of our success and the fun we had at Roanoke, and I love him. And he's newly married, and has his lovely bride Steph. And him live in Wilmington, and they're the best.
It's awesome. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, find those untraditional ways to implement, some sort of get out swim theme, and just
Yeah.
get the team excited, get the buy-in. Like that kind of comes back to what we were
Yeah.
talking about before. And I think that's kind of the through line too with something like, the get out swim. So
Yeah.
I no,
Yeah.
I
I
love
think
it.
there's definitely a time and a place for a lot of mechanisms to elicit a higher level of performance,
Right.
right? And I just, as an exercise, I did one yesterday with some of our athletes here.
Yeah. Wait, how'd it go?
And I liked it. It was really good. I was like, hey, it's a get out swim. One girl did not know what it meant. I said, hey, you have a get out swim. She got out of the water and was like,
I'm done.
what do you mean? What is this? So um
That's
but no,
awesome.
I think it's a great tool, and if it's a tool that you love, like, use it and use it well. But no, I'm a general fan for sure,
Yeah,
because I like going fast. So
for sure. Yeah, get them up on the blocks and do something special. Um,
yeah, definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, Scott, I appreciate your time. I think we covered a lot of just valuable stuff for coaches, for any listener of the podcast, and
Mm,
certainly, being authentic, being yourself, and just making an impact is are really important values and principles, and certainly takeaways from me too. So, thank you again, and
good.
yeah,
All right, my man. Thanks so much,
awesome.
brother.